And welcome to another episode of All Star Fandom. We're back for another week. Doc's out. He has some catering stuff to do, but I think we have a ringer in the group today. Uh, Jen, you know her, you love her. She's our queen of fandoms over here, and
Not
we want
today.
and
Not
and
today.
and today we have some very special guests. Lauren gonna give you the mic to sort of introduce yourself and talk about your Star Wars fandom just a little bit too.
Hey, what's up, y'all? I'm Lauren. I am the nerdy entrepreneur on YouTube, and apparently I'm the queen of fandom right now. I'm known as the Costanoo of Star Wars in our Star Wars group, so I pretty much consume a lot of Star Wars from the books, comic books, the movies, TV shows, animation, all of it. I have probably seen a lot of it, know a lot of history of Star Wars from the EU up until today, so I am here taking over for our friend who was catering food, did not send us none of us no food, so
Nope.
I am here of my goodwill on free. Take it away.
We appreciate it. We do appreciate it. So yeah, I guess we gotta jump on into it because we had 3 episodes that were really jam packed. A lot of tension throughout, and we get to a point in, I guess, where we can start like the rebellion now. So let's just look at So episode 7 was called The Messenger. Um, the series introduces the Force more directly through a healer who arrives at Yavin on the Rebel base. The healer identifies Cassian as a messenger with a significant destiny, a revelation that unsettles Cassian due to his past experiences with deception. While Bix quietly believes in his importance, Cassian still remains skeptical. Amidst growing tensions within the rebellion, Cassian grapples with the increasing bureaucracy under leaders General Draven, which we'll get to in a little bit. But I also want to go to the MVP of this. If you watched last episodes, you knew who my MVP was. It's Syril. So we're going to talk about Syril a lot today. I'm looking forward to it. But Syril, he's still working with Deidre to report on the Ghorman front activity, while their leader, Cairo, realizes he is powerless to stop his people from resorting to open dissent against the Empire. Deidre, she is concerned to learn that the imperial leadership, excuse me, has decided to revert to its original plan and just eradicate Gorm. Cassian joins Willem on a mission to assassinate ISB officer Deidre, who is overseeing that brutal mining operation in Ghorman. So he makes it there at the end and sort of in sniper fashion just hangs out at a window. So, Lord, since you're our esteemed guest today, what were your initial thoughts on episode 7, The Messenger, Andor season 2, episode 7?
There was some nice little callbacks because I remember Rogue One. I saw Rogue One quite a few times in theaters, so there are some callbacks in terms of what they've kept really consistent is Cassian's hesitancy to anything Force related, Force like woo woo. To him, it's all woo woo crap, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they kept that very consistent. So now we're seeing. It's not surprising to see him react the way he's reacting when Bix is trying to take him to the healer, and she's like Force sensitive-ish or a little bit Force adept, it seems, because he's not into any of that. So they kept that really consistent. So that was a nice callback to his hesitancy, but it's also a nice callback that he's destined for something, because in Rogue One, there are some things with other characters, if you haven't seen it, where it seems like he is destined. And Cassian has always been the reluctant hero in this whole thing throughout. He doesn't want to be the leader. He wants to do his gig, and then he wants to go off and, be happy or normal life, whatever that will mean for him. And, for us, we know how his story actually ends. And so we're still at that point where he's trying to run away from this responsibility of, now we want you to be a leader. You're more than just this weird assassin guy who does jobs for Luther. You're not with them anymore. It's now for you to, take up the reins. And then we see here, still ain't ready to do it. So it was nice to see those strong callbacks and ties to that, how long it's taken him and where he is mentally. I do like the, I think I said this in our Star Wars room, Jen, but
You did.
Deidre, what she thought she was going to do versus what was really going to happen. It was lovely to kind of really see that. because that's kind of, we know how the story eventually is going to end. So it was really nice. Her starting to unravel a little bit. You're seeing more of her panic, because there was a scene in a commercial where she's like this, and people thought Vader was. I was like, no, it's not Vader. Remember, she had a panic attack in
just
season
a panic
1.
attack. Yeah,
She's having another panic attack. You need to know why. So we're seeing the seeds of that, and also how cruel the Empire is in their plans. Now, I read a lot of the other content, so I know how they methodically go after planets, especially planets that have representation in the Senate. They're very methodical how they approach those planets versus they approach other planets, and the fact that they had years to perfect how they do this thing. If you read the book Catalyst, you'll know what we're talking about when they're first infiltrating different planets. So that's a book recommendation. Overall, nice callback. So I enjoyed it.
Yeah, definitely watching or having seen Rogue One is like that cherry on top of all of this, you know, to sort of see how we get to that point or how that person evolves into that point. Jen, what were your general thoughts on episode 7 of Andor season 2?
I enjoyed it for what it was, and like Lauren, I also too enjoyed the callbacks and everything, and she named all of them. Thank you. I think what I found most interesting was Cairo realizing what is slowly happening, and how basically what Cassian said in the last set of episodes to him, saying, you know, they're really good at getting you to do what they want in other words, but basically now he's seeing it coming to fruition, and just having that realization of, oh crap, we really did play into their hand, and this is what they're doing. So just seeing the the reality setting in the characters, where some are still trying to hold on to like, you know, that this protest is going to work, versus others that are realizing as things unfold, crap.
Of course. Yeah.
So and then also just seeing where everyone is. I mean, we also we have Bix is in a different place mentally. We have Vel coming in the mix with the rebellion. We're on Yavin 4. I was really excited to see Yavin 4.
Yeah.
And then we have some other Rogue One characters coming back in that we haven't seen since Rogue One, so that's also very exciting. So lots of things to really enjoy about this episode, from just the overall story to the callbacks to Rogue One, and where we know the Titanic is going to go hit the iceberg and sink down to the bottom of the Atlantic.
Yeah, I enjoyed this one just because it was like that perfect setup. Like the whole series been leading to that episode 8, which we'll get to, but the build up to it was really done very well in this one. I'll say it just from the jump. All 3 episodes for me were like really perfect from a start to finish aspect, at least for me. But do have a few questions about episode 7 too. More towards the force sensitive healer.
Yeah,
this has been like the first time we've sort of seen that the force sort of, I guess, grounded, if that could be, if I could describe it as that. How do you think Andor, the show, is sort of handling, at least this is the first time we've seen it in this season, or probably in the series, I think.
First time in the series,
right?
Yeah.
How do you feel like when you heard the force for the first time in this series? Did it seem out of place? Was it like, okay, it's not as mystical or great or grandeur as we've seen it in movies or other properties, but how did it feel here? Did it feel, I don't know, right in this situation? Lauren?
Felt like Rogue One, because that's how the Force is handled in Rogue One, in terms of the people who are not necessarily Force sensitive to the point of being able to wield it like a Jedi or Sith, but they're at least what we call Force adept, right? So she seems to me Force sensitive, probably more of a Force adept, because she said sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So she's not someone who might have been trained. She wasn't someone in the Jedi Temple, type of situation with her, because there's different force religions out there, right? So you could be the force adept and have a healing ability. You know, some planets, they're literal species where that's all they could do. That's the extent of their force powers. They can heal minor things, right? Or they're just a bit more sensitive. And so to me, they handle it really, really well. It's more on tune of what we're going to see in Rogue One. So it's like a precursor to, we're going to see a Chirrut Onray, we're going to see all these other characters, some who are more sensitive to the force, rather than outrightly wielding it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's how I felt. Because again, this is why we have Jen on these. Like me and my friend will watch them, but we're like, we got questions, right? So it's like we're smarter coming out of these shows too. So it's great. But yeah, Jen, what I guess with the film, like just like Lauren said, what were your thoughts on it? Did it just sort of wrap you back right into like how it was in Rogue One, or did something else stand out to you?
Oh, no, definitely. I mean, everything Lauren said is accurate because you have the different religions of the Force, different Force users. We've talked about this a little bit when we did the reactions to Skeleton Crew in terms of Jod and all the possibilities that could have been with him. So, no, it absolutely does fit. And I also think it fits the narrative of the rebellion and how I forget who said it at the moment, but new faces keep coming in every day. So the fact that they're getting more and more people to the cause, that's another reason why I think it fits as well. Someone else who does not agree with the Empire wants to play their part in helping the rebellion in any way they can. So she has healing ability, so she can come and help and heal the people who are fighting in the war.
Lauren, is there anything, little Easter eggs, thing that we may have overlooked, something that stood out to you that you were like, okay, this is perhaps a callback from, oh, I've read up on you, Lauren. Is there something that there's a callback possibly to something else? Like anything, any little nuggets there? Because we do have a segment called Jen's Gems on here, where she goes into these things.
Yeah, I get nerdy.
But is there anything that sort of stood out to you?
Yeah, so timeline wise, remember, this is happening. Rebels is also happening at the same time. So there's a lot of different shows that are technically, if you're watching them, all this is happening at the same time, right? In terms of Yavin, this is the development of Yavin 4. Eventually, we're going to go more development as you original trilogy and so on and so forth. So it's good to keep in mind that there's the Ghost Crew. They're doing their thing. They'll be brought in a little soon. Soon we'll get that. So you can almost trace what episodes they're at around at this point on Rebels to when they get to the Mon Mothma episode, which happens directly at the same time-ish as the next episode is going to happen. So that's a fun Easter egg of what's happening if you want to try to cross-reference that. At the same time, just to bring some fun characters in, you have Ahsoka. Ahsoka is around as Fulcrum. She's doing the things that she's doing there. There's some stuff that tied in SL was tied very much in the second episode. The third episode is really going to be tied in, and I have to go on a whole thing on Bail Organa, which Jen is going to love.
Yeah. Okay.
So you're going to love my tie-ins because there's stuff that it made so much more sense, and he's a character that we don't really look at. So don't want to talk about him yet, but when we go through the other stuff, I'll explain why certain things really, really matter. But those tie-ins on if you're a ship nerd of some of the ships, you can on Star Wars ships, you can look at that and nerd out. So I saw some ships like, oh shoot, that's it actually. And that was a ship that will be on Scarab in Rogue One and not make it.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it was there.
That's why I always say, pay attention to what's going on in the background. There's usually hints in the background of either, nods to something else or what's coming, to Lauren's point.
Yeah, and also, so just about the Rebel situation. So when you see the original trilogy, the original trilogy, the Rebels are, for the most part, a cohesive unit. When you see Rogue One, they're kind of saying, oh, we're going to be together for this battle against Scarab, because that's the first real space battle they ever had, okay, at this stage of the game. At this point, there are different Rebel cells. Saw's still out there doing crazy stuff.
Radicalized.
We have Yavin folk doing their thing, but there's still people from different planets and different sectors that are having their own mini rebellion or mini rebel groups, and not everybody's on the same page. Not everybody agrees with each other. Most of them don't. And so this is the beginnings of that. So everybody's very fractured. There is no united rebel front at this point, just to keep it for everybody watching the show.
Yeah, and we saw that in episodes past too, that there's no really like cohesive, game plan essentially for the rebels. So there's everybody's doing their own thing until So it's interesting to see that too, because I think just as a Star Wars viewer, I'm like, oh man, the rebellion, they had all their stuff together when it was time. You know what I mean? But after seeing this and then diving in some other things, I'm like, boy, like any other rebellion, it's like you got so many groups of people who want to do so many different things and execute so many different plans that no one can see eye to eye at the beginning. And it usually takes something like maybe episode 8 when we get into it, that sort of makes you figure it out a little bit more. Jen, anything else from episode 7? Because I'm really itching to get in 8.
So
I know you want Syril. We got him. We got
lots to talk about Syril. Lots to say about Syril, because I hypothesized like 3 different avenues where it could go, and it went down one of them. One of the things that stood out to me, and I saw this throughout all 3 episodes, it's just the one-liners different characters had that just really hit on different emotional points. So like when Syril and Dedra get into their friction on Ghorman in this episode, and he's like, what am I doing here? What's going on? He's like, Syril is noticing, wait, I'm here. None of this is happening, but then you guys are here. What's going on? What's my purpose? I thought I was in on it. Now I'm not in on it. So, and then the Ghorman saying, we are Ghor. And then you also have to what we were talking about with the Force healer, like he has a strength of spirit. There's somewhere he needs to be. And Val saying, because of where they're at with the rebellion and they're on Yavin 4, we're not Luthen's puppets anymore. Just certain lines that stuck out in the writing where I'm like, dag frickin' frick.
And I'm definitely like enjoying just the time jumps too. Like it's putting I'm enjoying that part of it. It's
I think they did a really good call on that with the time jumps. Absolutely.
Because definitely considering like
oh boy, I forgot about him.
Which one?
What's his name? Wilmer?
Will, yeah.
Willman, yeah.
Willman.
Oh boy,
yeah.
Because I forgot. Vale says we're not Luthen's puppets. I said no, but Wilmer is Saul's puppet. Or is he Luthen's puppet?
He's drinking the Kool-Aid still, is he?
He's radicalized. No, he is absolutely radicalized.
Yes.
Yeah, that was our question last week. What was he? Was he liberated or radicalized? And
I said radicalized.
It was over. Yeah, it was a sweep. It was completely. But yeah, he's become. There's a lot to go over here. Yeah, because I'm looking at my notes here because let's just jump into 8. Let's jump into 8.
Go for
because 8 was a lot. 8 was a lot just emotionally. It was a lot to take in. It was anarchy. It was a lot. So
I think for me, out of all the Star Wars I've consumed, this was the first thing I saw that it was very hard to watch, especially when we got into the nitty-gritty of it.
So let's get into it. So upon learning that it was episode 8, Who Are You? Upon learning that the Empire has reopened the plaza, the Ghormans march to begin a grand demonstration against Imperial oppression. But through Syril, we're reminded that this is exactly what the Empire wanted. It serves as that morbid realization that this is all going to end in one way. The Ghormans, they're staring, they're chanting, they're revolting, they're marching. They also get to this point where they sing a song. It's sort of like in a proud defiance of the Empire.
It's the national anthem.
Yes. And then we get to that first big moment. Here's when like Syril sort of things click. He awakens. He immediately realized that the Empire intend to box the Ghorman and make an example of them and calls Deidre out on it. Man, that was a lot.
Oh,
it was a lot to.
Right.
Can you guys start putting trigger warnings on these things for the adult content? Because there are people out there where this is too real.
That was a lot. But then we get to
weren't there our favorite BDSM couple that the jokes that were going around? So now we actually can see it.
Oh, okay.
This was a couple I did not want. I did not want this.
Well, last week she told him to turn off the lights. So so let your imagination go.
No, do not do that.
So we get, that's when the whole massacre sort of starts. Things are blown up. People are blowing up. People are thrown by droids.
Oh my gosh!
It's truly a massacre. It's one of the most brutal things I think I've seen in Star Wars as well. But it felt so real. Like, this is how it felt like we got something to fight for. The stakes are there now for me as a Star Wars fan, at least. But Cassian and Syril, they sort of cross paths. Syril sees Cassian along the way, leading to their confrontation. Syril attempts to save Deidre from that assassination tip from Cassian, which he does. And Cassian hits him with probably the hardest line anybody could ever hit you with.
Wow.
If they thought that you mattered.
Wow.
He said, "Who are you?"
Hence the title of the episode.
He was so pissed.
And emotionally just shattered Syril at that point. Where then that moment of hesitation is still when he dropped the gun, or was about to, it seemed like, he meets his demise.
Completely disarmed in one sentence. Who are you?
Yeah.
Or rather, question. Jeez Louise.
So it sort of delves into Syril's sort of tragic, this image here. Like, to have the person that you've been after or been like having a beef with for so long, and they don't even know who you are.
Because they never, I don't think, Lauren, correct me if I'm wrong.
They never crossed paths, right?
They never crossed paths. They never met.
There's a battle in Syril's head going on. There's a whole story in his head. And it's like, it's a double entendre kind of thing, right? So it's like, Andor really doesn't know who the hell this guy is. Like, he just doesn't know, right? They're after Deidre. So they really don't, literally, they've never met. He don't know who he is, but this is the guy he's been investigating, trying to catch, right? His play cop thing. At the same time, who are you? Syril's having a reality check. Like, what the fuck am I doing? Who am I? Like, what am I really doing here? That's coming up. So there's a lot of stuff going on in this man's head in his final moments.
Not only that, it's like, wait, he doesn't know who I am. Probably that too.
Yeah, this poor dude, like, he has a whole psychosis going on with this man. Like,
there's it really didn't deserve the headshot though, but that's neither here nor there. The rest of the episode is full of action as Cassian and Wilman, they flee the scene with blasters and stuff all over. It's like, it's just trying to get away at that point. Then we, tear up some droids, and we see a lot of familiar droids in this one, but one in particular that Cassian decides to take with him, which we'll cover that in the next episode. But who are you? Who are you? Jen, your overall thoughts on this episode?
Mother freaking Hobbit. Mother freaking Hobbit.
Oh goodness.
Like, I was sitting watching it, and like I said, I think it's one of the most difficult things in Star Wars I've ever had to watch, because it's why this show was so good, and the writing is superb in a way. Just that they really went there. They didn't sugarcoat it. It shows, to all of the people out there, it's like, well, why is the Empire bad? You're just telling me the Empire's bad and the Jedi are good, and I'm supposed to believe that and pick a side. Well, here you go.
Yeah.
for those that are not, heavy into Star Wars, that read the books, read the comic books, talk about this all the time, you actually finally get to see in the cinematic universe, if you will, why the Empire is the worst thing that could have happened to this galaxy, with zappy, zappy, blasty, blasty puppeteering in the background there. This was a heavy episode, and I think there were a couple of moments that really stood out, but I think my favorite one-liner was that young man that Cassian meets in the last set of episodes, where he just says to him, "Rebellions are built on hope," and I was like,
yeah, the guy who remembered him from the hotel.
Yeah, I call him the bellman. I didn't get his name, so I just wrote in my notes bellman. Yeah, this gentleman right here, and that moment was beautiful, and I'm looking forward to watching Rogue One after all this is done. Like, the moment it's done, I'm just gonna and movie. Go right into it. I'm not gonna wait.
I guess I know they haven't landed the plane yet on this, but as like diehard fans, how do you feel through this series leading up? It seems like you're like, okay, they're knocking it out of the park so far, but from your standpoint, from the series as a whole, leading into Rogue One, what, 10 out of 10? Like, are you satisfied with it? Happy with it?
12 out of 12 for me. I'm not gonna lie. Lauren, you know how I am.
You asked the wrong person. Jen rarely has that much of a negative thing. She's very positive, and we love her for it.
Yeah. Like, this is why you need Lauren, because Lauren is going to tell you, look.
Yeah, it's very much a look for me. I think, in terms of the series overall so far, to me, the first part of the show was really, really slow. In that part, and there's nothing wrong with a slow show. It's just like, there are certain things that I know, and the way they were building it out, I'm like, this. I said, whatever happens in season 2, this has to really pay off, or else it's not going to come off as good. I know people liked certain speeches and stuff that were done. I'm like, yeah, but you haven't watched Rebels, because Rebels had a lot of these speeches are mirrored off of what you would see in Rebels. Because we had some really good speeches at Rebels and stuff like that. So it's mirroring off of each other. So it's a lot of good homework there. So I think season 2 really makes up for a lot of the slower things, or the things that don't seem to connect as well. This season makes up for it, because it's kind of like people are dying off. People are having kind of better character arcs. So I kind of like the way they've grouped up the episodes, or else this season wouldn't work. Like, this season would be completely different. If they did this one episode a week, this season would have been dead.
Oh my gosh. It would have
been dead. It would have been done. Yeah.
So painful.
So the way they group the episodes works, really builds this season up and really makes it a really good season. But if they broke it up to one episode a week, a lot of people would have checked out already. We wouldn't even gotten to this episode, because it'd be
right.
Oh,
you're right, because those first 2 were slow moving, but we got to start somewhere, right? Like, we got to catch up after the last season too. But Jen, didn't mean to cut you off on your feelings towards episode 8 too. Anything else you want to point out from that? Because there was a lot.
The song, "Do You Hear the People Sing?" The song of Angry Men kept coming into my head. And then the more we got into the heart of the episode, as chaos ensued, I couldn't help but also think of the Titanic. Just multiple different references are popping in my head. But yeah, mother frickin' Hobbit. that's my summary of the episode.
Dude, when I saw them, like, because I know what happens to Ghorman Massacre, right? But this is the first time it's actually being like visualized, right?
Very visualized.
Always saying like, hey, it's really, really bad, and you read the books about the different massacres that do happen in Star Wars. For those who are not into stuff, there's a lot of different massacres that happen in Star Wars, for people's feelings about the Empire, and how you get some of the, even on the rebellion side, the horrible things that they do, which will come into play. The way they're boxed in, like, they're setting them up to be boxed in, and they don't realize that's happening. A couple of people who are like, oh crap, and they're trying to stop it, like what's his father's trying to stop it, because he realizes like, oh crap. It's really tragic. You see that him going through this episode. He goes through a whole character arc in this episode, realizing that I'm powerless, but I still have to do something. And just how it ends, is sad. But the way they boxed in, it reminded me of other shows that are always brutal, like the Vikings, the last episode, the last Viking series, in which they showed a historical massacre where they boxed everybody into the square and they threw fire bombs into and made sure people couldn't escape. So it reminded me so much of how they boxed everybody in, and then they just threw fire bombs and killed everybody.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it reminded me of.
We've seen that like in historical fiction films like The Patriot. They do that with a group of people that they shove into a church. That's the exact same thing they did to, make a statement.
Well, since I have him up on the screen, let's talk about Syril. Since we have him up on the screen. So
in the words of Doc, get the duck sounds out.
Mama, because there's a whole lot of stuff like.
Oh man!
So I'm gonna toss this to you. So because it seems like there's a deep dive in just the psychology or the makeup of Syril, like what he was thinking.
You could write a psychology paper on this character.
Yeah. Did he just want to be useful? Did he believe in anything? Did he just want to be accepted by his mom? It's a laundry list of things.
Yeah.
What's your character outlook or thoughts on Syril overall, from obviously his beginning of season 1 till now?
I think he realizes he chose the wrong mommy. Mm-hmm. If you get what I mean, she chose the wrong mommy, because something I was going to mention this week in our other Star Wars group is that, in Shakespeare, the fool is never the fool. There's a point to what they're saying. And to me, his mother is very much that character. Yeah, she's cringe, for a lot of folks.
Very.
But the question she asks and the certain things that she say is right on point.
Yes.
But we can't appreciate it because she's just horrible as that mother, at that archetype, because of all the things because she's abusive towards him, right? She loves him, but she's it's one of those relationships, and he doesn't know how to handle his mother, right? But the thing she says, especially in the last group of episodes, she was pointing out. She said, "You think this is a promotion? Don't you think this is weird?" And she's like, "You're really drinking into this juice. Like, you're not seeing what's happening," because from her point of view, she's seeing things. It doesn't align. It's like, no, this is a trap. She's literally saying, "This is kind of a trap, honey. I need you to wake the hell up." But she is who she is.
It's the way she's saying it, though. Like it's the delivery. It's just
her delivery.
Exactly. It's the delivery and the fact that because their relationship is so toxic, and he just dismisses her. He dismisses her in everything she says. He never really takes her seriously because of the way she has treated him his whole life. It's like the boy that cries wolf to a point where. Right. So there's so many times you can put up for this character's sake a facade, having opinions that don't really track in most cases, and then the one time where you're actually, to Lauren's point, pinpointing it, no one's gonna listen.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right. She's in that she's very much in that relationship with him, because Dedra's the new mommy, so he follows her, so he trusts her intrinsically. Even when there's little things, and he's like, "You really have me followed?" And she's like, "Turn off the lights."
I know, right? Like
I know.
I need vinegar.
I'll need a shower after this. But I'm sorry.
I'm just gonna drench myself in vinegar.
It was so bad. It's like his mom. We've talked about her before, but any person, or even your mom, to make you sort of go lay like this.
Yeah, that was like Jesus.
It's like
bravo to this actor for improving that moment.
Bravo.
I'm not gonna lie. This might have been the point where I was like, man, poor guy. Yeah, that's where I said, it's like, poor guy, man. Like he has 2 moms and they're not the greatest. And I don't know. So here's a question. So if Syril has sort of gotten a redemption arc, what would that have looked like? Jen.
Whew, if he would have had a redemption arc.
I'm gonna remove this picture. That's just embarrassing. It's embarrassing.
You have to do that as a clip, man. Just like, I'm just gonna pull this. Just pull this. That's a clip right there. This is just embarrassing. Man, a redemption arc for Syril. I think, and Lauren, you can jump in whenever you want. I think that's a bit difficult, but for the thought exercise, he would have to do a pretty big jump. Like, he would have to, I think, notice the rebellion, see the rebellion, have more of an epiphany sooner, and which is, I think, a bit of a stretch for him with the character we know. And then I think for Syril, because this is also on brand for Star Wars, you know, he's one of those characters, even though he doesn't make it here, he dies. You know, it would be like a suicide thing, basically, like doing a suicidal act for the rebellion, for redemption for him. He's a character I don't see living past this. I mean, the only other thing they could do is, which is in the next episode, I'm jumping ahead here, but what they do with Bix and how she makes that ending.
For now.
Huh?
For now,
yeah. Because I don't want to jump too far ahead. That's why I'm being careful with my words here. But yeah, I think he would, in my opinion, he would have to have an epiphany a lot sooner and find a way to reach out the rebellion. And I don't see him living no matter what. He would be still one of those characters that gets killed off. It would have been a suicide thing for his redemption, in my opinion.
Being the crazy Star Wars book reader, we've had and animation, we've had ISB officers or ex Imperials throughout Star Wars who do turn coat and do join the rebellion. Some realize it a little bit sooner than later, you know, which kind of helped the situation. But even in the Chuck Wendig books, there is an ex-ISB officer who has done some really horrific stuff, who winds up getting a redemption. But there's a lot of things that go on in those books. I don't want to get into that here. But he would have happened, because I think what was happening with him is, like, we look at his moral capacity, because what is Syril willing to do that the difference between him, Dedra would have done anyway in the Empire juice, so to speak, right?
Yep.
And what we see here is that Syril does have some morals to a certain degree, right? Because he's acting as a spy. He's playing, you know, double sides here. He does form some human connections with these people. He doesn't want to see them slaughtered.
No.
He doesn't believe in just, we got to kill everybody. That's a bit above what he would ever do. And that's what we see here, right? He's okay with, I helped take down the cell group. There was justification and people get arrested because they're not committing necessarily violent crimes. He's okay with that. But just slaughtering everybody, we see that he does have a moral capacity. Something else would have had to happen that would have triggered that a hell of a lot sooner. Like, I don't know, someone getting arrested and just shot without a trial in front of him. It would have to be something like that would have triggered that moral compass for him.
Which would have tied back to, sorry to overstep, but it would have tied it back to season 1, because that was his whole premise of going after Cassian. There was injustice done on his people.
Right, just done to his people. That was the whole thing, because he's very much kind of like that. But once you go past that, whoa, that's too much. And that's what we're seeing. Yeah, but he just realizes it way too late. He would have to see something earlier for a redemption arc. But a redemption arc in Star Wars, you need your death. Not all the time, but a good time.
Oh, really? That's usually the redemption. Can you give me any examples that you can sort of give?
Oh, there's a ton.
For that?
There's a ton. Go for it,
At one point, we could say Asajj Ventress, even though they resurrected her, but she did die as a redemption arc. Anakin, the original, died as a redemption arc. You know, kind of a thing. We can argue, case in point, Maul at his last moments kind of redeemed himself in terms of realizing the chosen one That's a big redemption arc that goes on forever. You know, we got this other ex-Imperial folks who I cannot remember who in the anime series who do turn coat and die at the last minute. There's some who actually live. Like there's people who live, but
you don't
not
see
that many compared to the people who wind up sacrificing and dying. Barris Offrey, same thing.
Oh yeah, Barris. Yeah, big one.
Yeah.
Well, excuse me. So with that with Syril, Jen, what again, I'll pull up my questions on Syril. I think we'll get off for a little while because just that "Who are you" line could
that
cut
really
anybody.
Stuck out. Like
that's the moment of the show. It's the title of the episode. Thoughts running through your head because we talked about it a little bit in the introduction for it.
Yeah.
But thoughts on just hearing that. It's like Thanos seeing Scarlet Witch in Endgame and saying like, I don't even know who you are. Like she said, you took everything from me. And he was like, I don't even know who you are. And I'm like,
Thanos and Scarlet
Witch
in Endgame is what he was referring to. You know, I love writing like this where they title an episode with a very interesting title and then how it ties in within the episode of the screenplay. I love writing like that. For me, it just hits. But to what we were talking about earlier with everything what's going on with Syril, there's like a plethora of things going in his mind because he's asked multiple times, you know, why am I here? What am I doing here? What am I doing? You know, he's really questioning the cause because he's trying to put the pieces together. He's trying to figure out Dedra and what Dedra's doing. And then you have that psychology in his mind, like, great, first my mother, now this one. And where you see him snap and how he goes on Dedra, he's really like going after, at least to me, going after two people in his mind at once. His mother, because he's always wanted to do that and never did it. And in this case with Dedra, he is doing what he's always wanted to do because it's a different relationship to a point. Right. Where he just can't take it anymore. Now it's another woman who he was in love with and feels like he's, you know, well, not like, sorry. He is getting played by her, and it's just another woman who's betraying him, hurting him, and he snaps. He can't take too much more of that. So then you have that paradigm shift. First my mother, now you. The cause of the empire. I thought I was doing something else. Now you're telling me it's this. And there's so much happening to him, which is why he's basically fracturing. And then he sees Cassian, the person he's like, the one thing he just wanted to take care of from the beginning. He finally gets the opportunity. And Cassian has no idea who he is. He's never met him, never heard his name. There has never, ever since Cassian has joined Luthen, there has never been a mission to go after him. And he can, because Cassian's been in this for more than a minute. He knows when someone's, like fighting is communication. It's another form of communication. So Cassian is feeling this guy knows me somehow.
Yeah.
Like the way he's coming at me, like he is going to kill me. And he finally turns around. He just says, "Who are you?" And completely disarms Syril to what Lauren said a little while ago at the top of the show about how he's thinking about that. But then, in my opinion, how I read it when I first saw it was, he doesn't know who I am.
Yeah, I had to think about it as soon as it happened. Like, wait, because it happened, I was like, man, he don't even know who you are. Like, you've been after him for years.
He doesn't even know who you are.
And then I had to think about it.
He's not afraid of you. There's no nothing.
But I had to think about it. Like, have they ever like crossed paths before? Like,
no,
they really haven't. Like, they never. Nobody's name was written on anything. Yeah, Cyril's name wasn't written. Like, I'm like, wait, he never really.
Which in a way is very, very interesting in the writing within itself, because it shows that Syril, for the cause of the rebellion, he's not important.
Yeah.
He's not important.
Yeah. Oh.
Because like when you look at from season 1 up to here, like that whole expanse of time, there has never been a mission from Luthen, go after this character. Syril is not important.
Oh, imagine.
But he wants to be.
And he wants
and we talked about that.
He wants to be important, and he's not.
Man,
he's never been important.
That hurts. That hurts. That hurts so bad.
And he's fighting. Don't get me wrong. I didn't know Syril could fight like that. I remember.
He had hands. He had hands.
I'm like, wow.
I was like, wow, he's mad. He really snapped.
Got hit with glass, got thrown, got almost blown up. Remember that bomb scene? And he and he still got
honestly, up. I honestly thought he was dead. I was like, oh crap.
So did I at that point. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it's like, he ain't dead.
I mean, hate's a powerful motivator.
It really
is.
I
mean? Like, it's a powerful motivator at the end.
I can feel your anger.
But is there anything from episode 8 that we sort of didn't cover that stands out in your mind, other than the "Who are you" line? Is there anything else that sort of, jumped out and caught your attention?
Lauren, you can go first.
What caught my attention was what's his name? I'm gonna call him Will for short. So
yeah,
Will. Yeah, being there. Remember, he's been for the last year. He's been back and forth on Ghorman the whole time. Yeah. So we know he's been radicalized by Saul. So he's really willing to do stuff. And then now we find out that when he's asked, like, where have you been? He's been back for his planet, got a little girlfriend. And I'm like, okay, well, what has he been doing there? And then you get little bits and pieces because it gets kind of cobbled up in the background of all the stuff that's happening. And when they say, oh, these incidents have been happening at these bases and part of this is Imperial led, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, but there was small sneaky lines in there where they were saying Will was over there bombing some of those places that the Empire allowed. Now, they're walking into a trap, and Cassian has called this out. Yo, this is a trap. Like, he's been calling this out since the last group, which is why he didn't want to get involved, right? Yep. And Will is radicalized, and he doesn't realize what's actually the part of the big plan. It's just like, okay, I have an opportunity to do my little thing, not realizing that the Empire is allowing you to do this thing. They're actually blowing themselves out, and then you do your little thing. Because when he flew Cassie in there the first time, he said, oh, I know this part and this part. It's like, why would you know that? Why would you know how to sneak in, allegedly sneak in? Because that's he's listening to things. He's in there as kind of
it's that piece of information that the Empire will never let you know unless they have a reason for having you know.
Right. He's being led and doesn't realize it. So you see a character like him being led to, oh, we got to do this. We're doing these things, thinking they're winning. And then the Empire themselves are doing all this other bombing of their own facilities. And then it brings back to the father saying, yeah, but we didn't do any of this. So why are we going? They're blaming us and we really do it. Meanwhile, Wilmer actually did do some of those things.
Yes.
And they don't know.
Oh, that makes sense now. Yeah.
Which is why when Cassian kept pressing him, where have you been? What are you doing? What are you doing? It's why he was not answering the question.
Yeah, because he was there doing, so the Empire was bombing themselves, but the Empire was allowing other, because at this time we got Saul and his rebels and other folks who are like that. They would go places and bomb places. So they're like, yeah, come here and do this.
Which is why Mon Mothma later on in Rogue One, when they're talking about Saul, which is why she's like, we don't want to use him. We don't want him involved.
Right. And then the rebels heard Saul getting into it. We saw those clips in our group chat. So
so I forgot about that.
Mm-hmm. Those little pieces of information, because you hear it is so quick in the episode because so much chaos is happening, you might miss it.
I hadn't even thought about that part again. I was like, so drawn by everything else, the explosions, obviously, and the shooting and whatnot, and the throwing of human beings for yards, which was very gruesome.
Bots, for some reason, those bots to me have always been scary when they were introduced in Rogue One, and they just go after people. They just like swing, and then next thing you know, you flying.
Like the sound design for this massacre with those bots throwing people and just how they're hitting walls and the ground. It felt
real. Like it felt
very real.
super
Like,
real because when when she got thrown by one of the droids, in my
Mhm.
mind I was like, because we've seen so much now. I was like that killed her, but then I was like, oh, we're getting real now. Like
yeah,
I've seen Hawkeye get thrown that far and get back up and shoot arrows, but she got thrown, it was over. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
so this is what we're doing. So this is
Mhm.
the power of that droid too, and there's stakes and risk involved in this. People didn't make it out
Nope.
of that, and yeah, I'm with you, Jen. This episode felt like it was Star Wars, yes, but it felt
Oh,
like something else.
it's Star Wars, but it's definitely on a level that I've never seen before, which is why I said last week, I am so happy that they're taking very bold strokes with the writing and the decisions, because we like when you have a full understanding of what the Empire is and what the Empire is doing, that this is what they're doing. I mean, for those of us that know history, we studied history and we're acquainted with what has really happened in our world and our society, you have an idea of
Mhm.
of what that is, what that looks like, what it sounds like, even though you haven't physically lived it. And for those
Right.
of us that have family members that have served, like my grandfather served in World War II, so there's some knowledge there told to us because they were there. So you do
Mhm.
have that piece. But then to what Lauren said, this is something that has never been seen before. It's always talked about,
Yeah.
but never seen before. It hits differently. And then to go back to the father and the daughter's name is Enza, and then I think we pronounce his name Cairo, or I believe that's what it is. He said he had a line that just hit, because they're going back and forth on, like, he's saying,
Yeah.
no, this is a trap. We have to stop everyone. We
Yeah.
can't go
Yeah.
in there. And, she's arguing and going, no, we have to do this. We can't be silent. He goes, we will be silent when we're dead.
Dead. Yeah. That was
Yeah. Oh.
I was like, ugh. Falling out of
also
my
just
chair. Go.
let's add something to it. So the way this was set up, right, is very and I'm talking about the troopers coming in. You got the task force, they're all black, so they look like cops, right?
Yeah.
For anyone
Yeah.
who's ever seen riots, whether it's here in the United States and the cops come in, they're all dressed in black and the shields and and everything else. So that's in a riot gear, right? We call that riot gear. When they land, Dedra's like they're young. They're so young. And I was like, okay, hold on to that. They put and remember when they were shooting, they were sacrificial lambs.
They took them.
They
Yeah, they
That
were.
was done on
they
purpose.
intentionally put them out there to get shot and killed, because the
That was on
first one who
purpose, yeah.
falls down is killed by another Imperial on the roof.
On the rooftop. Yeah.
Yes, they
Taken out
shot
on
into
purpose.
them. Yeah, they purposely shot into them. That was part of the plan. Those guys were those are young guys. Most of them were young, except for the older guys who was like their leader, their troop leader. Everybody else was relatively young, because that's the first thing Dedra says. Like, these are kids, they're young.
Yeah.
Why would you bring them here? Like her, looking at it.
And
she's the one who winds up giving the order for them to start, which was shoot one of them so that we have an excuse to shoot.
Yeah, she was. What was the line? I'm the finger, you're the trigger. Is what
yes.
he told her?
That was another powerful line. That's a good line. No, but we've seen this before. Like, for those that are watching us tonight, if you're a fan of Avatar: The Last Airbender, the original cartoon series, that was also done there, which is why Prince Zuko gets into an Agni Kai with his fathers, because they were doing the same plan. They had a brand new regiment that was going to be moved to a certain front of the battle, basically as sacrificial lambs, because they were fresh meat. They were young, expendable. So it's unfortunately one of those unfortunate common tactics in certain battle pieces that's a little bit of a trope.
It's like you're beginner, you're lighting the match, essentially. You're lighting the fire for it.
Exactly.
But moving on to episode 9, it's Welcome to the Rebellion. This is in the aftermath of the Ghorman massacre.
Oh,
Senator Mon Martha prepares to deliver a pretty much career-ending speech in the Senate, publicly
that
denouncing
ties
both the
into Rebels.
Palpatine and the Empire. Um, finger slipped. The pivotal moment sort of marks her commitment to the rebellion. Cassian, disguised as a journalist, is tasked with escorting her after her speech. And this episode sort of ends. Well, he gets her out again. Again, a lot of shenanigans go down, and that we'll talk about that part too. But an episode sort of ends with Bix sort of leaving Cassian. My man's exhausted. He said like this is it for him. Like especially after what I just went through there, I understand it. But it seems unlikely that they won't reunite maybe in next week's episode. But knowing Cassian's fate in Rogue One, it makes that message hit just a bit harder. Maybe they'll see each other again, but they won't have that happy ending after the war that she dreamt of. And then obviously Alan Tudyk is back.
Oh, pal.
So we get that. So we get that future partnership too. But yeah, episode 9 sort of finished the circle on this little 3 episodes arc for this week. Lauren, your overall thoughts on episode 9?
Oh, I can watch that scene with them trying to get her out that damn Senate over and over again. It is so well done.
Good.
It points out to certain things that we know about Mon Mothma that we spoke about. We have our own Star Wars group.
Yeah.
And is that Mon basically grew up in the Senate. She knows that building backwards and forwards. Like it's her safe space being in the Senate. So when there is a couple of throwaway lines like, hey, Cassian doesn't know the building. So if he gets boxed in, he doesn't know how to get out. And then like either this guy knows it or Mon knows it like the back of her hand. So as long as he's with her and something happens, she knows how to get out. And it proved to be true. She did. She's like, nope, go this way. She started taking off. And instead of him running in front of her, he's running behind her.
Yeah.
Like when it's really, really getting real, she's like, this way. I was like, one of my favorite parts. I really enjoyed that part of the episode and all the way through to the end. That is kind of like a bittersweet as we see Big leave Cassian, because she realizing that Cassian needs to be focused on this, and as long as she's around, that's not going to happen because he's not going to want to be fully committed. But remember, we still got 3 more episodes, and we know what happens in Rogue One. And one of the things that Cassian, or the one the actor who plays in DeLuna, said was that the way you see Cassian in Rogue One, watch it immediately after, because there's a reason why he is the way he is. I know we have this part, but I think Bix either shows up again or she doesn't make it. I don't see Bix living based on what I remember Cassian being in Rogue One. I do think that she dies between then and where we see him on that mission in Rogue One.
Because we don't know where they sent her.
Yeah, because how we know that she didn't take a job from Luthen.
Yeah, she didn't take the job from Luthen. Dedra's still alive. She didn't take a job from Luthen. So where does she go?
Where does she go? Because she still wants to fight. She actually she fully believes in the rebellion, unlike Cassian. She's different. She's still that no limit soldier. So I don't think she just went off to be chill. I think she went off to do something else.
To help. Yeah.
I agree, because the fact that she says another really strong line, I'm choosing for both of us, I'm choosing the rebellion. It shows that she is committed to the cause, which also ties into what the dialogue conversation they had between the two of them in last week's episode, where I'm not quoting her verbatim, but she says, I want this to count.
Right.
It ties into that very well.
Jen, Lauren, but anything else before I toss to Jen to get her thoughts on it?
Overall, really, I enjoyed it. Like, I enjoyed the Senate. We got to see more of the Senate and like the procedure. So, like, I'm a big U.S. history fan. right? So and I went to the Senate building and Congress building, so I know what they look like and certain things about them historically. So some of that is actually weirdly, if anybody knows those buildings a little bit, or the history of certain things and how you do on the Senate floor when you're on the floor, no one can disturb you, and how that works. Like, I'm really a geek about that kind of stuff. So seeing bits of that and how the Senate floor worked, and like, yo, you need to get this guy who's like sleeping to go all the way down here and get the other master.
Oh yeah.
That was like comedy in a very serious situation, but
he made it at like the very last second. Like that passed. Like he didn't make it in time. It was hilarious.
She basically finished her speech. She was done. That's
what they so exhausted. By the time they get to her, she already done. And then she calls Palpatine a monster. She said, "There's been a big division, and for some people, like it will trigger. Like, I know when we speak to Joe, he's going to be triggered by that moment because
he is.
When she has the speech of that we've allowed this division between truth and what we allow the people to say truth, which is very visceral for a lot of people with stuff going on now. And then she's like, we've allowed him, Palpatine, to do this, and he's a monster. I was like, oh, no wonder he was after her so bad in Rebels and crap like that. She called this fool a monster straight up and down, right in the Senate floor, without hesitation.
Yep.
And Bail. There's a whole lot on Bail, but I want Jen to say it because then I'm going to say some stuff about Bail.
She did not stutter. Did she stutter? She did not stutter.
She did. And Bale's right there smiling. And
Can I just say, Mr. Benjamin?
I'm just like, oh my God.
Mr. Benjamin, I'm so proud of you, sir.
I got some stuff on Bale because remember they said that people were infiltrating his office and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
I got some stuff on Bale, but we will wait to why Bail Organa is probably one of the coolest characters in Star Wars.
Yeah, Jimmy Smits is like one of the coolest guys I've ever seen in my life. And then you sort of recast him, or Benjamin Bratt fills in for him for this, because I think there was like some scheduling conflict or something like that is what I read. But that was like effortless sort of recasting too. Like it just worked so well. At least this season with the scenes that he was in. But yeah, we'll get to that, Lauren. I want to pick your brain about that too. Jen, thoughts about episode 9, Welcome to the Rebellion.
Woo! Appropriately named. Welcome to the Rebellion, people. Man, and I know Lauren can agree with this, but actually hearing Mon's speech in live action in the Senate is a big deal. The build up for it, her practicing the speech, and just like hearing little pieces of it, and just having for me as a fan, and I know Lauren too, and for any fan that knows Star Wars like we do, it's a very monumental moment, and it's very exciting. So hearing that was just, oh my goodness. And Jillian, who is a phenomenal actress who slays at playing Mon Mothma, brilliantly done. I loved it. Yeah, everything about this episode was fantastic. It had a good rhythm to it. The suspense building, the tip of the iceberg, the extraction, all of it was just so freaking good. So freaking good. And then Lauren, what's that room with the communication tower where they were getting the intel with all the bugs and everything?
Right.
Having those moments in there, and then just seeing all the different moving pieces, like we're going back to here, 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 and how it's just all happening at the same time. So freaking good.
And the cutting of the broadcast is very, very important historically. That has happened here in the United States with certain things, like the importance, like for those who like political science majors or like history buffs, like the cutting off of a broadcast of a senator speaking, particularly of a massacre, is really important. We've had situations in the Senate in these United States of America where situations have happened where people try to bring up certain things that are going on and getting shut down in the middle of the Senate or Congress floor, to things not being told to shut broadcast. I can even I'm gonna put a Kendrick Lamar reference in here. Turn that TV off.
Yep.
And like the whole like if everyone
Turn that TV off.
they allowed a song called "Turn That TV Off" to happen, right? And so it's a Kendrick Lamar kind of reference I'm putting there, like shutting everything down. You're like, yes, you're trying to make a message, you're trying to give this speech, which is really, really important, and they're trying to shut you down, cut off the free speech, kind of a thing. It's a reference to to that, because as a senator, she should be able to talk about that and like how we failed and this horrible thing. Like
we're in a democracy. Free speech should be free speech.
And they literally tried to shut her down, turn the TV off, cut off communication, and then kidnap the senator.
So with her during her speech, that reaction that's the Senate's reaction during it. You heard a lot of like jeers. You heard some cheers, probably. What do y'all make of that? Like, how was the message got out, but on the Senate floor or whatever? How do you think it was received, or how in the books have they even talked about it being received, if anything?
Well, the books and the comics, it's a mixed reaction, because remember, this is 2-3 years of propaganda against Ghorman. And you also have to understand, at this point, a lot of people who are current senators have been bought and threatened or replaced by Palpatine at this point. So people, by the time she's in the Senate, she's one of the fewer, I guess, senior senators that are around, because there were people who were disappeared, and in the books disappeared because they questioned funding, or they had a question about something that, I noticed this cargo bay is here. It wasn't here before. And all of a sudden, they are replaced with a new senator. So you got people who are very...
You see that a lot in the book. You see that in a lot in the book of The Catalyst, that ties into this story really well. That happens a lot in that book.
Yeah, but you see people who didn't say anything, but you knew they were like, but they couldn't express.
Holding it in. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. This one was a fun one for me. I did enjoy the getaway as well. Even taking out the getaway drive. Well, the driver who was
homeboy. What's his name?
Yeah.
Pow.
Yeah, I know.
He found her. Who are you?
Gun. Remember, the dude had a gun, and he did. And the funny thing, the getaway car guy didn't want to do it. He doesn't want to do this. He's
That's
like,
why I'm picking up. Like, he didn't want to be. Yeah, he didn't want to do it, right?
He didn't want to do this.
Nope.
This
was above his pay grade.
I gotta do what? Ooh.
Well, think about it. He was like the last, the last line of defense there. Like, it was just him after that
of this situation.
Yeah, I had a moment though, and Lauren, want your opinion on it. As he was listening to Mon Mothma, I wonder if he started thinking about maybe helping her, listening to the speech, because, he heard the whole thing, and then seeing everything, what was happening, and then getting these new orders. And it's just like, wait, what? You want me to do what?
Yeah, because that was the other thing. There are people who, and I think it's humanizing the people who are a part of the empire, because it's not just like black and white. There are people like, I just wanted to be the driver. And I'll tell you when she gets off from work and all that, but you want me to shoot somebody? Wait a minute. Whoa. And I think he was getting that. You want me to what?
Because also, like, in the Senate or people like him, there are some people that have never held a blaster, and you're telling them to use a blaster to shoot somebody.
Yeah, he know what he was doing. Like, you could tell he really was just a driver.
Yeah, it's like never had to do that.
Right,
the way he ran up those steps was like, he's the driver.
He still wound up catching it, but because you don't know where he's going to go, because as you see, he's not that. It's like, this is a job to me, and I think in other books in Star Wars where you have people who are Imperials, to them, they're regular people. It's just a job. This ain't that, like, they ain't for the that type of. Because they haven't been trained to be that person. They're just like, I'm just a janitor. I'm just this. And then all of a sudden they're in a situation where it's like, whoa.
This is just paying the bills. I just need to pay bills. You want me to do what
Yeah.
now? No.
Wait, what? I gotta do what?
I'll listen in and tap some phones for you, but I'm not
Yeah,
doing
like
it.
I'll put the bug over
Picking
there.
up a
That's all.
blaster?
From your
No,
chair,
thank you.
I'm
No,
good.
thank you.
So you
But-
know, people
but
I said,
real
Go ahead,
quick,
G.
Mhm, yeah.
quick to get back to your question, Dion, that you asked before. Yeah, no, I agree with Lauren 1,000,000%. You know, there's a mix of people in there that they believe Palpatine. There's other people that have been paid to believe Palpatine. And then there are some, like what we saw with the senator of Ghorman from the last set of 3 episodes, where he wanted nothing to do with Mon. He's like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. Now he's like,
Now look at him.
can we go back in time, please, and just start over and fix it? And now he's arrested in front of everyone. And there's
him off.
nothing no one can do.
No one can do a damn thing. He's gonna die.
Nope.
He's
Basically the moment he's out of sight, he's probably already
He's
gone.
done.
Yeah, he's done. He's gone.
Yeah,
we've
gone.
done it before. And
Man,
then
and,
Bail.
Yeah, so let's jump to that. Like, so that's where I wrote it down. What do we have to say about Mr. Organa?
we have a lot. You know, he's our resident Latino in Star Wars. So just to say that. So he's our resident Latino. He's probably going to be. We talk about different masterminds in Star Wars, and most of the time, the masterminds in Star Wars we think about is really folks on the Empire side. So whether we're talking about Palpatine or a Thrawn, or or maybe a Tarkin, in some cases, these people who weave these webs and of all kinds of things to get stuff done. And we never look on the rebellion side to see anybody who kind of really thinks like that, who is incredibly kind of violent, for what they want to do. Because mostly on the good side, people are very reactive. They're not very proactive in weaving webs. I think that Bail Organa is that guy. He is the guy that if he were ever an Imperial, he'd be a nasty piece of work. But so many webs, because think about it this way. Let's put it in context of what's happening here. Mon is like, you're coming with me. He said, I can't.
Mm-hmm.
He can't come with her. And why is that? Because Luke and Leia, he can't leave.
Yep.
And I'll bring some points that are related to Mon. So Mon's daughter grew up on Coruscant because Mon lived there. So it is traditional that if you're a senator on Coruscant and spending as much time as you do, that your family pretty much lives with you on Coruscant.
Yes.
That's not what happened with Leia. Leia spends most of her childhood living on Alderaan until she gets older and becomes a part of the Senator, Junior Senator herself under her father, right? But she spends most of her childhood on Alderaan because Leia is force sensitive and Bail knows she's force sensitive. And he has to protect her because remember, this is the time of Inquisitors. They're collecting children. All that stuff's going on. So she can't have her on Coruscant because she's showing the signs of force sensitivity. Someone might notice. So she stays on Alderaan most of the time, right? And that's what people don't get. Bail, at this point, he knows that Ben Kenobi's alive, Obi-Wan. He knows where Obi-Wan and Luke is.
He does know a lot at the moment, doesn't he?
He also knows who the father of the twins are. He knows.
He's privy to a lot of information.
He knows who the father of the twins are.
And he knows Ahsoka is alive. And he knows kind of where Ahsoka kind of always is because Ahsoka is the fulcrum. He turns her into a spy and sends her on all these different missions. And she's feeding him information because he has to protect Leia and he has to protect Luke and Obi-Wan, right? But here's the other thing. So we talk about the path. And if you don't know what that is the way that Jedi Underground Railroad or Force Sensitive Underground Railroad. Bail is also one of the orchestrators of the path. So he knows where certain people are or where they were or the different stops. Here's the other thing we folks don't realize about Bail Organa. Now, this is very much a book and some comic book reference. Bail Organa has deep connections with the underworld. He's friends with all the different pirate groups and some of the bounty hunters. In fact, Bail on multiple occasions has sent pirate groups and rebels to pick people up, and he himself has taken the Black Sun, Crimson Dawn, have all given rise to different parts of the galaxy when he needed to do stuff. And guess what? No one has ever ratted him out in the underworld.
No one.
Not one person. And they
No
knew
Most
who he
interesting
was.
man in the galaxy. If you hearing like
He really is, which is why, to Lauren's
man.
point, we have to be happy he's on the side of the rebellion, because if he was on the side of the Empire, he would be the
All
Emperor.
this would have been gone. We wouldn't have made it. All this would have been
Like,
gone.
you
Like,
know what Cassian and Bix did at the end of the last episode?
No.
It would have been so much worse.
yeah, you see,
Bail
all
Organa was on the side of the Empire. Yeah, like
Yeah.
he's really integral and very, very, very vastly intelligent. A lot of people don't know that.
They don't know. And guess what? Even when he dies in New Hope, you know why he dies? Because he's on Alderaan. That's
Yep.
the only reason why the man's dead.
That's the
They
reason.
never figure out that he's part of the spy network. They, even though they have people planted in his office, they never find out that Leia is who she is, or that he knows what Ben Kenobi was, or they never find out
That he has to do with Yavin 4. Like he basically die. Like all the secrets die with him. Everything.
also Yavin 4, the Rebels, the Golden Company,
Obi-Wan.
all those people. And remember, all the Force sensitive kids around the galaxy. He had Black Sun and the other places give them rise to different jumps. He was setting that up.
Yep.
And
That
he's
all
never
went,
found
that
out
all
about
went with
any of
him
that stuff.
when Alderaan got blew up. That all went with him. He
Yeah,
was
no
never
one found,
outed.
no one knew.
He was never outed.
Yeah. He's the coldest to ever do it in Star Wars. He is one of the greatest masterminds.
Like, if you
in
want to
Star
know who
Wars.
the goat of the rebellion is, it's Bail Organa. He's the goat.
Okay. Now I need some homework. If I were to start on this journey,
I told you I was not the forget Jen's gems. They don't exist anymore.
So if I were to want to start like his journey, or like where would you point me?
Ooh.
What direction would you point me in? Because that sounds super interesting
Well, you got
to find out more. To find out more about him.
We haven't had a book that was just Bail Organa, right? We haven't had that book.
No.
So it's just pieces in relation. Like, wait a minute, why the hell are you riding with Black Sun? And then they be talking about him so lovingly. I'm like, damn, what did Bail do for you that money doesn't
Just the way
matter? No one could. You couldn't pay these people to rat him out.
Yep.
Like, I'm trying to like, what the world? How can you ride with Black Sun and then ride with Crimson Dawn and then send them first? Ahsoka needed something, so I'm gonna send it this way, or get Ahsoka. Okay, Ahsoka, you're my fulcrum.
Oh, wow.
He's feeding her information about, hey, I'm hearing that they're looking for force sensitive babies, but Ahsoka doesn't know that he knows about the twins, and she doesn't know at that point.
Mm-hmm.
He's sending her out to do this stuff because he knows. Remember the promise in Revenge of the Sith that they make in that room when it's Yoda, Obi-Wan, and Bail about the kids.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
No one can know about each other. Everybody has to be far. We can't let nobody know. He's the only one who knows that Yoda's alive. He knows all these people are around.
He knows all of it.
He knows where everyone is.
That's why when you watch Obi-Wan Kenobi show, it hits different because the first time they've seen each other in a while, and he's like, oh, this happens and that happens.
Yep. Like the way that hits when you know the whole story of Bail Organa, it's just like, wow.
I've been amazed already because I didn't know all that.
Even Thrawn doesn't realize the stuff about him that I just revealed.
Nope.
Oh, he was setting all these
it's one of the few people Thrawn does not figure out.
Yeah.
One of the few people. And Thrawn is the one who figures out who Darth Vader and Anakin are the same person, but he doesn't figure out who Bail Organa is.
Yeah, and he doesn't figure out who Leia is. And
no.
Leia's force sensitive. And Leia's kind of actively force sensitive in her intuitiveness. But the only one who can deal with that, remember, Bail and his wife, because Bail has been around Jedi a good chunk of his life. He knows, he's seen it.
He understands,
He understands. So he knows that, okay, as long as we keep her a certain way and just call it out, eventually it'll fade a little bit so she won't be so obvious. But at this point, at 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, she's very obvious for some of us who can pick it up. So she's nearing, eventually it'll come out. They'll start to pick it up. So he knows, okay, because that's what Ahsoka tells, hey, don't worry, it'll fade. You just got to give it a little while. But if she starts honing it, it's going to be a problem. But he's one of the few people. That's why she's never on Coruscant until she's much older in the Senate.
Because she's outgrown it. It's people will just read it as, wow, she has really good intuition.
Yeah,
that's how people read it.
Yeah.
And after the Inquisitors are gone, once most of the Inquisitors are gone, then it's okay. Because when in Obi-Wan, the Inquisitor goes after the kids, remember he finds out about all that shit.
Mm-hmm.
Because he has to protect her.
Yep.
There is no Obi-Wan Jedi, so if an Inquisitor comes over there, they got a whole different type of fight, and he knows what they're capable of because he was there in the Jedi Temple and doing the Senate thing with them. So he's more familiar with Force-sensitive people, particularly what Jedi present and what they look like.
Oh man, that was
oldest to ever do it though.
Now I'm just mad. Now you're saying he's coldest to ever do it, and I'm like, I think Jimmy Smith is the coolest guy ever. And now I'm just fusing those two in my head right now on these adventures to know this information and to gather all of this information and to, oh God, there's got to be a YouTube video on it.
he's much better than Luthen. Much better.
Luthen's kind of annoying to me, but
yeah,
we're all gonna go.
But real quick, anything else? This has been super fun. This has been super enlightening too. I got a lot of notes written down. But anything else from this episode before? I think we got time to go into our rapid fire questions real quick. I just got a few of them. But anything else stood out? Well, you know what? Not anything out of this. Give me a few predictions for next week. Any thoughts? Any inside information you can throw in right now? Thoughts for next week?
Well, it is a year later after the Ghorman massacre. Moth is
another year jump.
It's a 1 year jump because I have to align it more with what happens in Rebels. So Saw probably will come up again, maybe.
I hope so.
Yeah,
I think so, because didn't they put in the trailer, Lauren, like the moment he's looking at the planet getting destroyed from Rogue One? It looked like that scene because he's in the suit.
He's in this. Well, he's on the planet that gets destroyed. The first planet that gets destroyed is Jeddah.
Was there? Yeah.
Like, because when I first saw the trailer with the final trailer we got for the season, I noticed that in the trailer. I was like, oh wait, are we going to see the planet get blown up again? We're going to see Jeddah again because he's at that window looking out.
Well, we wouldn't. Well, we wouldn't see that because he's on Jeddah when it gets blown up.
Yeah.
So, and that's the start of Rogue One. The way this is it's supposed to end where you can just turn on Rogue One and you're in that scene.
Right there.
Ending where Cassian's going on that mission to eventually he kills in the first scene of Rogue One. So whatever happens there, that's why I'm saying Bix might get killed accidentally or was on a mission, and that's kind of informs more stuff that happens to him in Rogue One, because I don't think she survives to Rogue One in the first place. That's my kind of assumption on there. I'm trying to think.
I don't think so.
Rebels. I don't think so, because here's the thing: even on, and this is the pivotal moment. On this is pulling from clips. You can clips from Rebels with Saw talking to Mon. Even at that time when she's talking to Ezra, Mon she is still trying to fight politically. She's literally still talking back and forth to people in the Senate, even though she's out, even though it's been like a year, even though horrible things have happened, she's still trying to handle this diplomatically. It is not until the Battle of Scarif that they actually decide we are a rebellion and we're going to fight.
Yeah.
So she's still she's trying to do the political thing.
Yeah.
Bail, they're doing everything undercover, Yeah. That's what's happening. That's who Bail is. She still refuses to be like, I declare war, even a year later. It isn't until Rogue One, after Jen has to give that speech and go back and forth. She's still very hesitant, if you guys remember that. So,
yeah,
Mon is still Mon. She doesn't want to be an all-out battle.
No, not at all. Not at all. Which is why that scene in Rogue One where they just basically go rogue and do their own thing, because it's part of her narrative.
She does it. She wants to be. she still believes there's a diplomatic way to do things.
solve.
And it's that
Yeah.
battle that she has morally with Luthen and Saul about Saul's like, no, it's too late. We have to go, we have to do this. It's too late. They're not going to understand anything else.
Which is why I've said, like in our rooms, Lauren, you know, there are arguments where both people are right. There's
Right.
You just have to pick which one to do, and which is difficult. It's a very difficult situation. It's like, no, Luthen's right, but then Mon's right too. But then there's really no right decision in this scenario because of the times we live in.
Yeah.
Right.
Again, everybody. There's a book, a lot of pages, and they're all on those different pages. So, but at least they're in the same book. But real quick, let's go into our rapid fire ones. Jen, cover your ears. All right.
Really, Jen cover here is the screw Lauren's ears.
Well, she did it last week. Sorry, Lauren.
It still scared me a little bit, but I'm glad you said that. I was like, oh yeah, that's right. There's a sound.
So
It's like cover your ears. I'm like, okay, I don't know what's going
Lauren.
on. I'm just like, I thought it was a joke.
Duck and cover.
So just for you to go through, I'll say the questions real quick. I'll say a name, and Lauren, you'll go, and then Jen. So we'll go back for it. It'll be the same question though.
Cool.
All right.
Okay.
So let's see. This is a fun one, and no time limit or anything like that. So who's more trustworthy, the Force healer or Mon Martha's drop?
Ah!
Oh, sorry. Lauren.
Force healer.
Jen.
Force healer.
All right, most haunting line or moment from either of these 3 episodes.
Jeez.
I can't remember word for word, but it's what the father, or whatever his name was. You're silent when you're dead, kind of line.
Yeah.
We will be silent when we're dead is the line.
Jen.
That's a good one. I mean, there's a lot of one-liners. There's a lot. But if I had to pick one, where the bellman says rebellions are built on hope, because it's a tie into Rogue One. That really, that one got me in the heart.
Yeah. And Mon Mothma moment, well, welcome to the rebellion.
Yeah.
She's like, what?
What? What do you mean?
What do you mean? And meanwhile, he's rushing her with the damn gun.
Rushing her and then telling her, don't run. But then you're rushing her.
You're rushing her. Pushing her.
Lauren, best word summary for Syril's life arc.
Mommy.
One word. Oh my goodness. Jen.
What did you say, Lauren?
Mommy.
One word for Syril Karn's life arc. You don't hear it, but it's a sound effect. Thunk, where he falls off.
Oh, that's not even. And I'm gonna end this quick. Last one. Who's got the better villain energy, Deidre or Syril's mom?
Deidre.
Jen.
Deidre.
Really, for both? Okay.
Yeah, Deidre. There's a few reasons why, but you got to remember what happened in season 1.
Yeah, Deidre. One.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we'll give it to her then. Well, that's all, man. I'll just stud. Really, Jen? That's how we're gonna be. Okay.
Well, I said exactly what I meant first.
Stud.
Well, if we don't have anything else, I think that'll close us out for tonight. This was really good. This is really enlightening. Learned a lot. Lauren, thanks for being a guest too. Feel free to come back anytime. If you want to come back next week, let us know. I'll send you the link because you provided a lot of insights tonight. That was really dope. But before we head out,
next week for the Allow arc, I will be there for that if you allow.
Of course. So yeah, let people know where they can find you, support you, and everything like that.
Let's see. I'm the Nerdy Entrepreneur here on YouTube. I usually talk about fun business stuff that I'm doing, so you can check me out there. Or I'm also on Twitch as Night to G, where I occasionally stream. So you can find me either or there. For video content, Twitter is LB Twice. I talk about business stuff. That's my thing. If I'm not talking about Star Wars or other nerdy stuff.
And Jen, letting people know you're a regular here now, but let people know where they can find you.
I'm on Instagram at Nerdiqua and Rocking the Bald Pod. That is my podcast called Rocking the Bald. I'm also on TikTok and Blue Sky at Nerdiqua. You can find me on there, and then I will keep popping up here for as long as Dion and Doc let me.
And also All-Star Fandom Show Instagram. If you're watching, thank you. Watching the replay, thank you for that too. I really appreciate the support. And it's fun to put these things together. It's fun to learn, man. This is why I started this channel. Because I was like, hell, I like watching Star Wars within the box that I watch it in. But I know there's more outside of that box. And who knows more about that box? Well, okay, Jen knows more about that. And I know Lauren.
You mean Lauren.
Lauren. This is perfect. This is the point. This is the point of it all.
Lauren didn't tell you about herself. She's actually been in these writers' rooms. She knows how they work.
Oh, we're gonna have an episode about that. We're gonna have to. But again, thanks for jumping on. We really appreciate it. Doc, if he's watching, we'll see you next week, hopefully. No more catering gigs, but either way, we'll see. I'm sure we'll see you again.
No, the man pay bills, so he need to cater.
Yeah, go ahead and do that, man. You're good. But this has been another episode. Again, thank you, Jen. Thank you, Lauren. And we'll see you next week for the finale, right? 3 last episodes left.
Woo, so she'll be there, and we'll see where we drop off and how many new times I get to add.
Buckle up, ladies and gentlemen. Buckle up.
Straight to Rogue One. But until next time, peace.